My today guest in OPOstories from the NBA 4840 is Scot Pollard. Scott, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
NBA vet with Pacers, Pistons, and Celtics, Sacramento Kings as well. NBA champion from 2007-2008 season. But I would like to start with really beginning. Who was your favorite player when you were a kid?
My favorite NBA player when I was a kid. I didn't watch the NBA player a whole lot when I was little. I'm the youngest of 6. I have 4 brothers and a sister, and so I was always watching them play. But when I did watch the NBA, I loved watching Patrik Ewing play. He always tried to rip the rim off, and so when I was young, I was like, I want to try to dunk like Patrik Ewing. And actually, my rookie year, I got to play against Patrik Ewing, and that was my welcome to the NBA moment. Like one year, I'm like, wow, it'd be cool to be in the NBA, and the next year, I'm guarding the guy that I idolized as a kid.
Mm-hmm. And how do you remember this first game when you play against your idol? I guess that it wasn't with the bright, shining stars and so on, but it was really tough.
No, it's not funny. It's not fun. It's terrifying. You know, you want to make it to the NBA and you think you're good enough. And I got drafted in the first round and by the Detroit Pistons, and I didn't play a whole lot. I played once in a while, and then all of a sudden I get in and I'm playing against Patrik Ewing, and I'm just like, I hope he doesn't dunk on me. You know, you kind of forget that you belong there, you know, and you get into it, of course. I mean, there was other times I was on the court with Michael Jordan or, you know, Charles Barkley or, you know, David Robinson and all, you know, like I played in an era that had a lot of superstar big guys, including Michael Jordan, who wasn't a big guy, but a superstar. So I had been on the court earlier in the season against other players. I'm going, whoa, I'm guarding, you know, this guy or that guy. But again, it was a little different with Patrik and you know, just because of how I felt about him as a kid. And so, you know, I'm guarding him and I'm just like, I'm going to just do my best to make sure he doesn't score. That's what I want. And I don't want him to block my shot and make me look stupid. So he didn't dunk on my face, which was nice. And then, you know, the butterflies go away when you have a little bit of success, and then you start getting better and better. And then, you know, then you're not scared anymore. After about halfway through your rookie year, you kind of get used to the fact that every single night there's a superstar on your team or the other team that you're playing with or against. And so you get used to it night in and night out. Once you've seen everybody, it wears off really quick, because if you sit there like stars in your eyes, like you were saying, you're going to get dunked on and you're going to get beat up really quickly. So it's not fun. It's not funny. It's serious business. And so you definitely have to take it seriously.
Before I will start, we start your journey with the NBA. I've got some questions. As I mentioned, I've got the mix of my question and also Polish NBA fans. And there are 2 questions about the Kansas, playing for the University of Kansas, because you played with Paul Pierce, with Ostertag, LaFrentz, and also Jacque Vaughn. How do you remember that time? And do you got some inside stories about cooperation with future NBA players?
Well, I chose Kansas because of Roy Williams, the head coach at the time, and then he went back to North Carolina and just retired. But Roy was a man that I needed in my life at the time. My father had just passed away a couple years before that, and so I knew I needed to go to a college where the head coach was going to be there and be somebody I could look up to, whether I played every game or never played in a game. And Roy was one of the few that never promised me a starting job. And it was probably because he had Greg Ostertag and he had Richard Scott my freshman year. And those guys were just incredible players. And so I came off the bench my first 2 years, actually, because Greg was a junior my freshman year, and then he was a senior my sophomore year. So I played behind Greg Ostertag both my freshman and sophomore year. I think my sophomore year I ended up averaging more minutes, so that's kind of an inside story about that. But, you know, Greg, I learned a whole lot from Greg. I learned a whole lot about how it was going to be in the NBA from Greg, because he's so big, he's so tall, he's so long, and he's got incredible timing. I think one of the things that people underestimated about Greg Ostertag was how talented he was and how much athletic ability he had when it came to blocking shots. And he could shoot and he could rebound and stuff, but he just knew what he was good at, and he kept it with that. And he rebounded very well, but he blocked shots better than anybody I played with in my whole career. So I learned a whole lot from those guys. Richard Scott, I learned a lot about being undersized because he was only about 6'6", but he could just get down and post up on you, and you couldn't move. And so I learned a whole lot about being able to be that guy because, again, when I got the NBA, I'm 6'11", but there was 7'3", 7'6", 7'7". You know, there's always somebody bigger, stronger, faster. And so you have to learn how to use your body. Well, I was strong. And so I learned from Richard Scott how to be strong and post up big. And I learned from Greg Ostertag how to shoot over somebody that's just an incredible shot blocker. So I think both of those guys, my freshman and sophomore year, well, my freshman year with Richard, he was a senior. And then, you know, playing with Ralf LaFrentz, just an incredible shooter. That lefty fadeaway in the baseline and his ability to find the basket. I learned a lot about that from him. Paul Pierce, you know, I was older than him as well, and I learned a whole lot about just being a gym rat. Paul always had the ball in his hands, and you know, he never looked like the strongest guy, but Paul, you couldn't knock the ball out of his hands. When he had the ball in his hands, he was so strong with the ball. It was always going up, and you weren't knocking the ball out of his hands. And you know, he just loved playing pickup games after every practice. He'd just hang around. And Jacque Vaughn and I, we were roommates. We picked each other as roommates our freshman year. We had played in a couple all-star games together and got along. We decided we were picking Kansas right around the same time. And so we decided, hey, let's just be roommates. And it worked out all 4 years. We still keep in touch to this day. He's one of my oldest and best friends. And we both learned a lot from each other, both on and off the court. Those 4 years of college being roommates with him, I learned a whole lot from him. Probably I learned more from him than he learned from me. But you know, the craziest thing he ever did was he almost let me cut his hair one time.
And also regarding still we are with the Kansas, and one of the Jayhawks was Wilt Chamberlain. And I'm just curious, do you got the same story like Mark Eaton, who met Wilt Chamberlain and play with him on the court? Did you met Wilt and also play against him?
No, Wilt actually died the next year after my dad died. No, not the next year. He died several years later. I met Wilt once in high school. He came down to San Diego to Torrey Pines High School, walked in our gym. We were like, why is Wilt Chamberlain here? We had no idea he was coming. And he just walked in and talked to us for a little while. And at the time, I had no idea he even went to Kansas. That did not influence my decision at all. That's not why he came to the gym. It was just random. He just happened to be playing beach volleyball, which he did for longer than he played in the NBA. He played professional beach volleyball longer, like 13 years or something, longer than he played in the NBA. So just an incredible athlete. And I'll never forget shaking his hand. I got big hands. And man, I was in high school. I was this height when I met him. So my hands were this big. They weren't as thick, but they were this long. And man, I remember his hand just went wrapped around mine. You know, he said he was only 7'1". Seemed like a lot bigger than that, a lot taller than that. But that was the only time I ever met him. The next time I had a chance, I missed him by 1 week in Kansas when we had 100 years of Kansas basketball celebration in 1998. All the basketball team came back during All-Star break, so the NBA players could come back. And then the next weekend was Wilt's weekend. And I could go on and on about that, but we'll end there.
And of course, you are playing as a big guy on the center, and so there are a lot of questions about the opponents or your teammates playing at the same position. And during your rookie season in Detroit, there was Rick Mahorn. It was his 17th season, and I'm just curious: was he mentor as well, the toughest teammate during your first steps in the NBA?
Yeah. Sorry, hold on. This is going to ding. Can you hear me okay? Or if you can hear me all right, we can keep going.
He say hello.
Yeah. It's 7 o'clock here.
Maybe Ricky is calling.
Yeah. Wait, no, it's 5 o'clock. I was looking at it in the mirror. I was like, oh, it's 7 o'clock. There we go. 5 o'clock. Rick Mahorn, also one of my favorite teammates. Learned a whole lot from him about being undersized because he's 6'9". So I was taller than him. I guess I am still taller than him. He taught me how to use his butt. Like his butt was just so wide, and he knew how to just use his body and get in there. Kind of like I was talking about Rick Mahorn, Richard Scott when I was in college. Rick Mahorn knew how to use his body and make quick moves, but also moves that made you get to the basket more efficiently, as opposed to wasting time with a dribble and a step back and all that more athletic, thinner people have to do because they have to be able to get away from people that are big and strong, like Rick Mahorn or myself. So I learned a whole lot about how to use my body. And then off the court, he did all the rookie stuff to me. I had to go get him a newspaper. I had to go get him some donuts. I had to get him coffee, all that stuff. And, he wasn't too bad. And I took it all because I figured that's part of it, and I passed on some stuff to rookies later on in my career as well. It's just part of that. And, when I hear that rookies are like, oh, I'm not doing that, I'm not going to sing that song, it's sad because to me, it's like, hey, everybody is the best in the world here. You're no better than the rest of us. Take the beating, take the rookie hazing, and let's all be teammates, and you'll be a better person for it and respect your teammates more as a result. But I loved being teammates with Rick, learned a whole lot from him. And I know if I called him up right now, we haven't spoken in years, but I know if I called him up right now, we would have a great conversation.
Mm-hmm. And then after the Pistons, you play with Sacramento Kings, great team with great coach, two Hall of Fame players, Vlade Divac and Chris Webber, Jay Will, and later Mike Bibby, Peja Stojakovic. I just wonder, was the Lakers the only reason that you didn't win even one NBA championship?
Yeah. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I could say, well, it was Utah that one year or it was Dallas that year. No, the Lakers ended our season 2 years in a row. And those 2 years were the years that we were really good enough. Not more so than 2002. No other year when I was with Sacramento were we primed to win a championship in 2001, 2002. But we ran into the Lakers, and there's no overcoming two of the all-time greatest players when they decide to be the greatest they can be. And in games probably 4, 6, and 7, those two, Kobe and Shaq, just decided they were going to be the best they could be. They were superstars, and they acted like winning championship-minded superstars those games. And there's nothing you can do. When those two players wanted to play together and be their best, the only thing you can do is make the rest of the team struggle, because you're not going to stop Shaq when he's ready to go. In prime Shaq was unstoppable. Prime Kobe, unstoppable. When those two wanted to play and win a game, they were going to win. They're both championship mentality guys, and they were both supremely talented superstars. So, we were ready, and we were the best team by far. We know it. We had the best record in the league that year. We were the better team. We had home court advantage throughout the playoffs because we earned it, because we were the better team. We beat them in the regular season, and we had them down on the ropes in the playoffs in the Western Conference Finals. Game 6 really popped our bubble. We couldn't recover from that. And in Game 7, we just laid an egg. I mean, we took them to overtime, but it's still, we couldn't hit shots. We couldn't hit free throws. We did dumb turnovers. And so, for everybody that wants to talk about Game 6, I say, well, what about Game 7? Because we lost Game 7. They didn't beat us in Game 7. They were good. But we lost Game 7 because we couldn't recover from Game 6. And championship athletes, championship-minded people, they find a way to win.
Mm-hmm. And also regarding playing against the prime Shaq, one of the fans, Polish fans, asked, was there and what was your defensive strategy against Shaq in 2002? And was it possible to stop him somehow?
Well, the strategy was try to keep him as far away from the basket as possible. because Shaq wasn't ever going to just face up and shoot a jumper over you. He could probably, but he knew where he was best, and he would get his back to you and back you down in and dunk on your face. So you just tried to meet him early and keep him as far away from the basket as possible. Try not to. My rule number one was, if I'm going to foul him, I got to make sure it's a good foul. There were times where, say, Chris Webber or Vlade would foul him, and I would raise my hand so that I would get the foul called on me and not them. But when I'm going to commit the foul, because everybody knows you want your best players in the game, and so being a role player myself, I wanted to make sure that if it was close between Chris or Vlade and me, I would take the foul, because that way you got to keep them in the game. So that was part of it, spreading the fouls around. But if I knew if I was going to foul him, I had to make sure he didn't score. I didn't want to just give him one of these, slap on the arm and he still dunks it anyway, and it's an and one. So you had to make your fouls count. And then the other part of it was, I used to talk to him a lot. I would try to get him laughing. I'd try to get him thinking about anything but basketball, just to try to distract him. Because if he's not thinking about dunking on my face and he's thinking about motorcycles or whatever, hey, maybe I can hold him to 20 instead of 40. So there was that, but there were times when I played against him and I was like, man, I had a great game. I slowed Shaq down tonight, and I'd look at the box score and he had 55 points, like, I thought I did good.
Still he could, for example, score 70 or 71.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was on the court with LeBron when he scored a bunch. I've been on the court with Kevin Garnett when he scored a bunch. Jermaine O'Neal when I was with Indiana, he scored 55 one game. And, so I've seen some of those incredible performances. But just Shaq was so good. As I said before, when you think you're going to stop a superstar that wants to have a good game, the best thing you can do is distract them and make sure the other teammates don't beat you. If Shaq's going to go for 50, well, you can't let Rick Fox go for 30. Shut Rick Fox to 0, because you can possibly do that, but you can't stop Shaq from getting 30 if he wants to get 30.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned about the second O'Neal in your career. Now, as a teammate, you play with Jermaine O'Neal, who is forgotten all-star for sure, and we've got the opportunity to see the documentary at the Netflix about the Malice at the police, and the situation which changed his career, and also the chance for Reggie Miller Pacers to win the NBA championship. I'm just curious, how, from your perspective, did you look this situation at the game?
Well, it should have never happened, of course. It was an ugly thing. It was a terrible, terrible night. It was surreal. I mean, even now, I'm like, I cannot believe that happened. I cannot believe that actually happened. But, the previous season, we should have won. We had best record in the league. We had home court advantage against the Pistons, and we lost to the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that was our best chance to win as a Pacer team, because then the Malice happened. And the next 2 years after that, when I was a Pacer, we couldn't get together. We could not get it together. That first year was the only year we had a chance to win it. And so, fast forward, the Malice and the Palace, it's the rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals. And because we lost, and because our head coach at the time, Rick Carlisle, had been a coach for the Pistons as well, he was mad. And he wanted to rub it in. He wanted to make it a statement game. The game was out of hand. We won. And I don't blame Rick for what happened, but I do blame Rick for allowing it to happen by leaving our starters in the game that was over. We didn't have to have Ron Artest and Jermaine O'Neal in the game at that point. If they're not in the game, if Ron is not in the game, if Ron is on the bench where he should have been in a game as a starter and had some other player, a bench player in the game, never happens. The brawl never happens because Ron's on the bench and there's a bench player in the game, in a game that we're up by. The game is over. Where there's a minute and something left. They can't catch us. The game is over. But Rick Carlisle left our starters in the game. So Larry Brown left his starters in the game. And their starters were pissed off that they were still in the game because the game was over. And so tensions run high, a hard foul happens, Ben Wallace reacts, Ron Artest reacts, and, you know, the rest is all on videotape. But, you know, the one thing I disagreed about that documentary that came out is we weren't victims. And I can't stand that some people try to portray themselves as a victim in that situation, because we're the professional athletes. We're the ones that they're paying to see. Us acting like normal people, and I don't mean to denigrate anyone, I'm not saying that we're better than anyone, but there's a certain set of rules you have to live by when you're being paid millions of dollars and idolized by thousands of people, if not more. You don't get to act like everybody else. So when you're playing your game and you're just an entertainer out there, you just go out there and you do your job. You go out and play basketball, or you go throw a ball, or you bat the ball, or whatever it is that you do. If you're an entertainer, you know, kick the soccer ball, the football, you know, do that. But when the things went down that went down, it became theater and it became a distraction. And then the fans started coming into it, and, you know, they didn't breach first. Ron breached first. Ron went. Yeah, somebody threw something. But Ron didn't know who it was, and he hit the wrong guy, and he admitted it. He admitted that he hit the wrong guy. So who really started it? Well, Ron started it because he hit Ben Wallace, and then Ben Wallace reacted. And then Ron went and laid down and then acted like he was just being innocent, which was very passive-aggressive. And the fan didn't like it because Ben threw something at Ron while he was laying on the scores table, because Ben knew what Ron was doing. And so the fan saw his hero throw something at Ron Artest, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to throw something at Ron Artest. So so then Ronnie gets hit, and Ronnie charges. Well, then all bets are off, aren't they? Who's the victim? You don't get to play victim when you instigate what happens. So that was the problem I had with the documentary. I was so furious at my teammates for doing what they did. The franchise has never been the same. They still haven't been to the Eastern Conference Finals since then. So, the actions of a few hurt the lives of many and hurt our chances as a team of ever winning anything. And so that's the part that I just wish that they had that thought process going through their head at the time that I saw on the documentary, which made me even more mad because where was that thought process back then? I know we were all younger and not as mature now, and we've had time to reflect. But again, when you're a professional athlete, you don't get to think like everybody else. You have to be more mature than everybody else. You have to think, I have a special job. I want to keep this special job, so I have a special set of rules I have to live by. Excuse me.
Yes, especially that it was a second time in your career where you've got the chance to. It was really close to win the NBA championship. First with the Kings, of course, there were the Lakers, which are on the three-peat run. In Pacers, you've got the Pistons, who finally won the NBA championship in 2007 and 8 season. You won the NBA championship with Boston Celtics. And how do you remember this season? Because you played with 3 or even 4 future, where we are talking about Rajon Rondo, Hall of Famers. How do you remember this season? You didn't play in the playoffs, but still was the important part of the roster.
Well, first of all, in 06 and 07, I played in Cleveland, and we went to the NBA Finals, and we got swept by the Spurs. So we did get to the finals. That was the first time in my career I'd been to the finals. But, we didn't really have a chance. So I just didn't want to skip over that because that was a very, very good team. They deserved to be there. A lot of people think LeBron carried us, which, yes, he did. He was the best player on our team. But you don't get the record we had, and you don't get to the NBA Finals with one player. And any NBA player or any real analyst will admit that it takes a team to get that far. So moving forward to 07-08 with the Celtics, I got there and we played some pickup basketball. I really sprained my ankle really badly in September. and it blew up. Like, it swelled up really bad. And I'd had ankle injuries before in my career, so and I knew it was going to be my last year or maybe a year more, just because my ankles and my back. So I kept trying to play through it. I tried to play through training camp and I couldn't. I was in Europe with the team. We went to Rome and they went to England, but they sent me home from Rome, and they did a check on my ankle and they said, "You're going to get surgery." And I said, "Well, can I make it through the season?" And they said, "Maybe, but you're getting surgery. It's bad enough that you're getting surgery. If you get surgery now," I said, "How long will I be out?" They said, 4 months. I said, "Well, that's February. I don't want to miss a championship season, so I'm going to try to make it through the season." So I did. I tried to make it through the season. I played hurt until February, and it snapped. And then my ankle gave out in Phoenix, actually, against Shaq. I was playing against Shaq, and he ran down the court, and I just turned to run, and my ankle gave out. It popped. It had nothing to do with him. I was just changing directions, and my ankle was jacked. So anyway, I tell you that story because a lot of people don't know why I missed the playoffs. That's why I missed the playoffs. I had career-ending surgery on both of my ankles because they did my one ankle that gave out, and then they looked at my other ankle and they said, "Well, that one's the same." So I just decided to get both of them done since I knew my career was over anyway. So playing up that until February and giving everything I had was how I felt comfortable being a part of that team as we went all the way to the NBA Finals, even though I wasn't able to participate with the team anymore. I still felt like a part of that team. I got the ring, and we've talked about all the teams that I was on that coulda, woulda, shoulda. In high school, even, I was on 2 different teams that should have won state. We were the most talented teams that should have won state, and we didn't. In Kansas, my senior year, we should have won the national championship. We didn't. In Sacramento in 01-02, we didn't win it. In 03, 04, here as a Pacer, we didn't win it. In Cleveland, didn't win it. So in Boston, we finally win it. Now, I wasn't a huge part of that team, but I wear that ring for all those other teams I was on that coulda, woulda, shoulda, and I was a much bigger part of those teams. So it was incredible being a part of a championship team finally that won it, that knocked that door down, and playing with guys like Rajon, such a great player. Not my favorite person. I'm not going to lie to you and say we were really close friends, but there was times where I talked to him after practice because he'd get thrown out of practice. And so I'd go talk to him. "Why did Doc Rivers throw me out of practice?" "Well, Doc Rivers threw you out of practice because you were talking back to him." "Why does he always ride me? He doesn't ride you." I'm like, "Well, what position did Doc Rivers play in the NBA?" "He was a point guard." "So, of course, he's going to be harder on a point guard than he is a big guy, isn't he?" "Yeah, you're right. You're right." So, there were those talks with Rajon. Playing with Paul, because I had played with him in college, we had known each other. We played against each other in the NBA leading up to that point, so we knew each other really well. It was fun being teammates with him again. Kevin Garnett and I had battled throughout the years. We guarded each other, hated each other. I didn't like him. I didn't, and there were times where, we'd call each other names or whatever. And our trash talk was not jovial. Our trash talk was mean. We did not like each other. We fought each other, not with fists, just we battled. We did not like each other. And then when we got to be teammates, we both realized why we didn't like each other. Because we both wanted to win really bad. And we both wanted our teammates to be the best they could be really bad. So we pushed each other and we pushed our teammates. And that's why I love being teammates with Kevin Garnett. Also, not a great friend. Just like Rajon. You don't have to be friends with people to be a great teammate. Kevin Garnett, one of my favorite teammates. I wouldn't call him up right now and say, "Hey man, let's go to dinner." Not my favorite guy, but one of my favorite teammates, and I respect the hell out of him. And I would talk with him and just hang out and catch up because I haven't seen him in years. But so it was really cool playing with those guys. And the rest of the team as well. I don't mean to leave them out, but you asked me specifically about Rajon and Paul and KG. Ray Allen. People, a side story. I'd go back home to Kansas in the off season every year, and I'd go play basketball, pick up games with the college kids and whoever else would show up at the gym. I'm dribbling the ball up the court, I'm shooting threes, blocking shots and going around guys, dribbling around guys. And they're like, "I didn't know you could do that." And I said, "Well, why would I shoot threes? I play with Peja Stojakovic. Why would I shoot threes? I play with Reggie Miller. Why would I shoot threes? I play with Ray Allen. Why, so that was my theme is, I'd go back into the summer, I'm still one of the best players in the world, but I didn't do all the things I'm capable of doing in the NBA because I knew that I was way better at rebounding, way better at blocking shots, way better at knocking people over than Ray Allen was, or Reggie Miller was, or Peja Stojakovic was. So I did what I was the best at, and so they could do what they were the best at. And I thought that was the best way to be a good teammate. So it was great being teammates with Ray. Ray and I get along really well. Haven't spoken to him in years either. I haven't spoken to really anybody in the NBA for a long time, anybody I played with, because I'm a realtor now, so I do other things. But, Ray was probably the most mature guy on that team. He was older than everybody. I think he was even older than me. So I think he was the oldest guy on the team. Great teammate, quiet, thoughtful, thought for himself, read a lot of books, and, obviously hit big shots when he needed to.
Mm-hmm. And there is a sentence, once sold, always sold. And from your perspective, is it true? Do you are still close to the organization and to some of your teammates for sure? Because it was a special season. You was at Celt in the championship season. So I think that is something really important for the fans.
Yeah, I'm always going to rep the Celtics. I have Celtics gear. I still have my championship hat right over here that has champagne on it from the celebration. I still wear my ring once in a while. As far as like hanging out with the guys, nah. I mean, I don't hang out with anybody in the NBA because, again, I do different things now. But this year actually, I just received a letter from the Celtics organization that it is the 75th year of the team being a team. So they have some things planned, and I don't know what they are, but if my schedule affords it and my pocketbook affords it, I'll probably go back and be part of the celebrations of their 75th year because I am one of the lucky ones that's won an NBA championship with the Celtics of all people. So banner 17, and I'm certainly willing to go back and see some of the old gang and see some of the guys that I didn't play with that are just Celtic legends.
Mm-hmm. For sure, I'm and the other NBA fans in Poland are curious about how do you find inspiration for such a creative hairstyles and beard styles, and also which was the best in your opinion when you look from the present perspective?
Well, if I'd known I was going to be bald, that would be the reason I did it, so I could do it while I still had hair. But when I was younger, I think it was 7th grade, I shaved my first mohawk, and I dyed my hair blonde in 7th grade. Through high school, I would do different things. Vanilla Ice was big when I was in high school, so I did the flat top that was up like this high. I did all kinds of stuff with my hair, and it was really, there was no inspiration besides, let me see what that looks like. I want to see what this looks like. I want to see what that looks like. So I would do that with my facial hair, the mustache or the chops or whatever, because it grows back. So I just had fun with it. It was something I just thought, you know what, I'll just have fun. But I think my favorite one was the mohawk in Cleveland. It was black at first, and then I dyed it blonde. I've got a picture of me driving to the basket once. It's pretty cool. I like that one with the mohawk. And, I feel responsible for bringing the mohawk back to the NBA because I kind of did that, and then all of a sudden the Birdman went and did a bigger mohawk. And, some of the other players in the NBA started wearing mohawks. So I feel like, hey, man, I brought the mohawk back.
And also in Poland, the publishing house Arena prepared the Vince Carter biography. I know this was the different position that you were playing, but I'm curious, did you remember maybe some poster dunks which he made on you, or maybe you've got some spectacular block on him?
Not off the top of my head. I do remember that one time in Toronto when he was with the team, I had one of my best games ever. I think it was triple overtime, and I had a big night. I had a lot of I think I had 22 or 23 points and like 16, 17 rebounds and 6 or 7 block shots. I had a big night up there in Toronto one night, and he was on that team. But the greatest thing about Vince Carter is nobody ever says anything bad about him. He's a superstar that everybody loved playing with. And the coolest thing about Vince Carter is they've done a check, and you can search this on the internet. He played with 35% or like 35 or 40% of every NBA player ever he played with or against. That's an incredible number. I mean, yeah, he played 20 years, but other people have played 20 years too. But they did that stat with him, and I'm like, wow, that's incredible. Just the longevity. I'm jealous of Vince because apparently he can still dunk, and he's almost my age. I mean, he's not much younger than me, and I'm jealous that he can still dunk. I don't think I can still dunk at this point. I'm 46, and I don't know if I can get up and get it, and I'm a lot closer to the rim than him. So I'm just jealous that his legs still work like that. And, but yeah, half man, half amazing. Nothing but respect for Vince Carter, man. What a career, what a human being. When you play that for that many teams and for that long, there's just no way you're not a good person. You have to be, or else you wouldn't be in the league that long.
But still, I think that nowadays in the NBA, if you've got 3-point shots, and you mentioned that you've got this attitude, so there will be the chance to do something like this. Not dunking, but shooting from the 3-point line.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. He didn't dunk as much towards like anybody. You get older. You can't dunk as much when you're older as you do when you're younger. So he did have to evolve his game. He was known as a slasher and a dunker. And then he had to start working on his shot because he couldn't dunk as much and get as high. So the fact that he was able to evolve his game to be a better jump shooter and a 3-point shooter towards the end of his career is a testament about how talented he is or was.
Mm-hmm. Scott, we've got about 5-6 minutes to the deadline, those 45 minutes. Is there a chance to ask you last 2 questions about your life after NBA and Survivor, your appearance in Survivor, and your all-time Scot Pollard teammates team? Is it possible?
Okay, I'll try and come up with that real quick.
Okay. So you mentioned about a lot of activities in the nowadays. How looks Scot Pollard's life after NBA? I guess busy.
Yes. I've been in movies, small budget films, nothing big that you've ever heard of. There's one called Axeman. I play a serial killer. There's one called The Prophet, which you can't see because that's mine and I never released it. But I did a couple other small budget films. Obviously, I was on Survivor. I've done commentating for the Kansas Jayhawkes, for the Pacers, for the Kings. I've really enjoyed that at times, but the travel schedule really got me down. I have 4 children. My oldest is 23. The next one's 19. I have a 14-year-old and now a 5-year-old. So I've been a father more than anything else, I think, because when I got done with the NBA, I finally was able to be home with my family year-round. So I didn't really want to take any of those jobs that would keep taking me away from my family, because that's what I did for the first part of being a father. I had to be away because I was being in the NBA. And even when I was home, I was working out. So I wasn't home a whole lot. And so I really enjoy being a dad. I'm around my kids all the time. They all live here in Indiana. And so I'm around them all the time. I love them. I'm actually driving down to Indiana University tomorrow to pick one of them up for the week because she's a freshman down there. I'm just that's it. I'm busy with kids, and now I became a realtor 3 years ago. So I help people buy and sell their houses because the working with people is something I've always enjoyed, and realty is something that changes all the time, which fits my personality, kind of like my hairstyles and my beard, right? I like change. I couldn't go in and be a 9-to-5 person in the office every day from 9 to 5. That would be difficult for me. So realty is great because I get to choose who I get to work with. My wife is my partner in business now. She's a great realtor. And we just help out whoever's client needs help. That's who helps them. and it's been great. It works out really well, and so we're just helping people buy and sell houses here in Carmel, Indiana, and raising kids.
Okay, last really short question. Who would you pick to all-time Scot Pollard teammates team?
Oh boy. Vlade is on there because I just love that dude. He was a great teammate. Reggie Miller is on that team for both the ability to just shoot from anywhere on the court and make it go in, and also just a great human being. I love that man. I need smaller guys. I need some small guys. Guys I played with, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the qualification. Guys I played with, not just guys I played against. I got to go with Jacque Vaughn. I love playing with him in college. I never got to play with him in the NBA, so that's my point guard. So we got point guard, we've got shooter, we've got Vlade and me. I need one more. It's to make 5, right? Or do I go 5 teams?
Yes.
Okay, one more. LeBron, I gotta, he's the best player of this generation. So I got to put him on that team. That's quite a squad. You got Jacque Vaughn, Reggie Miller, LeBron James, Vlade Divac, and Scot Pollard. I know I'm still the 5th or 7th option on offense, but I don't mind. We'll win.
Maybe there will be also a chance to fight for another ring.
Yeah, but I think that team might do it. That's a pretty good roster right there.
Mm-hmm. Scott, thank you very much for time spent talking about your career and all those inside stories. So enjoy the day. And again, thank you for answer to the questions from the Polish fans, NBA fans.
All right. Thanks for having me on. It was great talking with you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
All right. Bye.